Crisis, conflict, and economic strife. This is the high price Germany is paying for abandoning nuclear power. But how did Germany so dangerously miscalculate abandoning atomic energy? And can it sustain its economy amidst an uncertain energy supply, geopolitical tensions, and increasing pressure of green environmental targets? Welcome to Living History. Our story begins in the 1970s with a German landscape characterized by nuclear power plants, 24 reactors spread across West Germany, and a more modest 3 in East Germany, generating over a quarter of Germany's total electricity production. These weren't just symbols of technological prowess, they displayed a proud and advanced commitment to the consistent, stable provision of energy. In fact, Germany's nuclear power plants were so efficient, they didn't just meet domestic demand. They produced a surplus, and with East Germany a top uranium miner, access to fuel was easily available. But concerns grew around the environmental impact, radioactive waste, and potential links to weaponry. In fact, by the mid-70s, the West German public was deeply involved in protests against nuclear energy and the building of new power plants. This resistance was further fueled by the 3 Mile Island disaster in the US in 1979, prompting 200,000 protesters to take to the streets of Germany. By 1980, the Green Party emerged from a union of environmentalists, peace campaigners, and grassroots activists. They shared the genuine nuclear concerns of citizens, marking the beginning of a transformative turn in German politics, a turn that we still feel the impact of today. But more on that in a moment. Fast forward to the Chernobyl catastrophe of 1986, which spread radioactive cancer dust across Europe. The risk of nuclear power was cemented in global consciousness, and Germans were shaken once again. The result? In less than 20 years, self-sustainability was threatened by protests against the perils and concerns around nuclear energy, reshaping Germany's energy policies and, in turn, its politics. Momentum against nuclear power in Germany continued to grow so much that by the year 2000, a coalition led by the SPD and Green Party formally declared plans to abandon nuclear power and sparked Germany's ambitious energy transition, Energiewende. As some nuclear plants like Stade and Oberigheim were swiftly shut down, a new vision for a greener future was introduced through the Renewable Energy Sources Act. The funny thing is that Germany not only met the Act's aggressive targets, but exceeded them. However, shutting down nuclear plants at the same time as setting climate targets is like fighting fire with gasoline. Germany overlooked how achieving green goals was effective precisely because it still had nuclear power, bypassing reliance on fossil fuels. The nail in the coffin of Germany's atomic energy program came as the Fukushima disaster struck Japan in March 2011. This tragedy pushed for Germany's acceleration of complete nuclear shutdown. Polls during this period show that 75% of Germans favored an immediate exit from nuclear energy. Amid public sentiment and mounting pressure, Angela Merkel's government was forced to respond with a significant nuclear shift and befriend the opposition. Demonstrating rare bipartisan unity, the Bundestag passed a landmark law, mandating that 8 of the total operational reactors would shut down by the end of the year. It was further decided that the 9 remaining reactors would cease operation by the end of 2022, and this is where the real trouble began. You see, although Germany's decision to phase out nuclear energy has repeatedly faced social and environmental pressure, it is fair to say that rather big decisions were made in haste. As a result, Germany has a renewed dependency on fossil fuels, elevating pollution levels and counteracting previous green target success. To add to this, Germany also became a net importer of energy, which of course also escalated energy costs. To make matters worse, the winter of 2022 forced Germany to halt plans to phase out coal plants. Greenhouse gas emission targets went out the window. Instead, new measures and policies were put in place to safeguard energy supplies. This was partly due to high demand and unexpectedly dwindling energy supplies within Europe, which of course worsened with Russia's invasion of Ukraine. You see, as Russia supplies almost half the EU's natural gas, the war fueled an energy crisis in Europe, and this is where Germany in particular has faced a unique and highly consequential struggle. Without nuclear power as an alternative energy source, and an industrial sector that is heavily dependent on a robust energy supply, Germany's standing as an industrial power is under threat. The invasion of Ukraine firstly led to the temporary suspension of the controversial Nord Stream 2 pipeline, a major project that aimed to transport natural gas directly from Russia to Germany, with the hopes of further stabilizing Europe's energy security. However, in September 2022, a series of bombings and explosions damaged the pipeline. Who was behind this remains a mystery, but the pipeline was more than just infrastructure for Germany. It symbolized deepening ties with Russia, so we can make some educated guesses here. Germany has also been criticized by many in the Western world, including the EU and its NATO allies, for repeatedly overlooking Russian aggression in order to sustain its own energy needs. For example, when Russia annexed Crimea in 2014, Germany did little to reduce its import of Russian gas. This survivalist complacency threatens to weaken the international standing of the most influential country in the EU. Given this, we wonder, when push comes to shove, who will Germany side with, and what decisions is it willing to undo? It has been forced to reconsider its policies, priorities, and partnerships in order to protect and sustain itself and the economy, or as it may look on the global stage, sleep with the enemy. For example, the former German Chancellor Gerhard Schröder was stripped of his post office privileges and staff in May 2022 after failing to cut ties with Russian energy companies like Gazprom over the Ukraine war. European Union regulations complicate matters further by obligating member states to provide gas to neighbors in case of severe shortages. This means that if faced with a gas deficit, Germany would be compelled to redirect its gas supply as part of the EU's net energy system. Without sufficient reserves to supply the EU as well as itself, Germany would be left gasping for resources and having to choose between its European allies and its economy. Robert Habeck, the economy minister and a Green Party member, painted a bleak picture of Germany's future. If the gas transit agreement between Ukraine and Russia were to expire in 2024 without renewal, Germany could face the daunting prospect of drastically reducing or even halting industrial activities entirely, crippling almost 30% of the country's GDP. Wolfgang Kubicki, deputy leader of the Free Democrats, emphasized in an interview with the Funke Media Group the safety of German nuclear plants and labeled their shutdown as a dramatic mistake, with considerable economic and ecological ramifications. With an economy in jeopardy and unpredictable energy challenges, the political arena has also been forced to consider a U-turn. The FDP, allied with the opposition CDU-CSU, suggested prolonging the operation of nuclear power plants until mid-2024. But on the 5th of September 2022, the federal government announced that 2 of the 3 remaining nuclear power plants would only operate until April 2023. The decision was revised on the 10th of October 2022 to keep all 3 plants in operation until the 15th of April 2023, when they officially ceased operation. This is nothing short of economic suicide. The German economy thrives on cheap energy, and in the absence of nuclear power, it is reliant on importing cheap Russian energy and raw materials for processing and exporting them as high-value products. And by sticking to its April target in spite of depleting Russian supply, by May 2023, the economy teetered on the brink of collapse and was forced to declare a recession. It's interesting to also note that Germany's deviation from nuclear power stands in stark contrast to its neighbors. France, for instance, has ardently embraced nuclear power, which now generates approximately 70% of its electricity. This energy strategy has made France more self-reliant, enabling it to export surplus energy, much like Germany once used to. Now, with decades of back and forth, differing opinions and conflicting policies, Germany's political steadfastness has been compromised. This is a topic we discuss more in our next video, which explores how Germany is broken, linked here. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and comment, as this really helps more people find our channel. This is Living History, signing out.